Welcome, everyone. We're thrilled to have you here tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your morning, your afternoon, evening, depending on wherever you are this evening. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I just want to briefly introduce who we are. So Where's Festival is a platform that creatively explores the intimate relationships between people and their clothes. So we've created this platform for all of you to share those stories. We are a small yet culturally diverse team, and for the first time this evening, you get to meet our lovely art director who's created all of our, who's produced all of our assets and creative content, as well as our brand identity. So I'm going to now let him do some housekeeping. Everyone, this is Adan.
Hi, everyone. As Nessa said, my name is Adam Farias, and I am the art director and graphic designer of the festival. And I just want to go through the event protocol with you all. Whereas Festival facilitates space for individuals to come together and join conversations about the meaning of dress. The organization is not responsible for the personal opinions of the guest speakers expressed before, during, or after the session, and this may or may not reflect the views of the organization. We invite everyone to engage in the conversation during the event using the chat or by raising their hand with the Zoom function until the Q&A part of the session. Until then, and this is very important, we kindly ask you all to keep your cameras and microphones off. Whereas Festival declares that no abusive behavior against our guest speakers or other members of the public will be tolerated, and that anyone incurring these practices will be automatically removed from the session. We remind you that this event is being recorded and may be uploaded in Where's Festival platforms in order to offer accessibility to those who didn't have the opportunity to attend today. If you want to find out more about us or the events we produce, follow us on our social media channels or sign up to our newsletter in the website. That's it. Thanks so much for being here. And Nessa, that's your turn.
Thank you, Adan. I also want to say, if any of you have something to share, please do email us and reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Before I introduce the panel and read their bios, I just want to say that normally we have events every last Wednesday of the month, but we have something special planned for August, so just stay tuned. I will also ask all of the panelists to now turn on their cameras, please, so that I can read your bios and we can see all of your faces. Okay, so Dr. Chantrice Sims Holloman is an award-winning former educator, motivational speaker, and author. Since becoming partially paralyzed and a bilateral amputee in 2018, she's made it her life's work to help women overcome obstacles, and one of her biggest challenges right now is finding clothes that are both cute and accessible. Monica Dugar graduated from her BA in Fashion Design and Development at London College of Fashion in 2018. She interned at Mary Katranzu and Paul Smith, where she learned the basics of realizing her skills in fashion and her interest in research for adaptive clothing. Usha Dugar-Bade is a SIMA qualified and completed her executive MBA from Said Business School at Oxford University. She has held multiple roles in strategy, finance, and mentoring for startups. Caprice Kwai is a 20-year-old fashion student and model from London. She's lived with a disability since the age of 10, which has shaped who she is today. Growing up in a society where disabilities and mobility aids are not seen within the fashion industry, Caprice wanted to challenge the status quo and become a model to show the world that every body is beautiful. Andrea Ruano is a Spaniard who moved to Manchester in 2018 to pursue a career in graphic design and photography. In 2007, she survived an Ewing sarcoma, apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly, and recently underwent a leg amputation. She advocates for cancer survivors across Europe. She's passionate about fashion and proving that being disabled doesn't mean having to look boring. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Chantrice to take over so that we can begin. so that we can begin. I hope everyone enjoys this panel discussion. Take it over from here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here, especially since I'm the only one that I think is from the other side of the pond. I am here in Atlanta, Georgia. But let's go ahead and get started. And this question is for all of our panelists. What are you wearing today and why? Now, I'm not going to call on people, although I am a former educator. I'm going to let our panelists kind of jump in. So who wants to talk about what they're wearing and why they are wearing what they're wearing?
Okay, I'll go first then. Hi, everyone. So I'm wearing orange color. I think this is very summer color. And so why not to wear a vibrant color during the summertime? I love its fitting and have got, I love this, like the whole orange, the vibrance of it. That's me.
I'll go next then. Good evening, everyone. I'm wearing very summery, refreshing white crochet top. The reason I'm wearing is because it's got a good cut and it sits comfortably on my body. So that's why.
Guess I'll go next. Hi, everyone. So I'm wearing accessories. So these are from my own jewelry line and a head wrap. I really like accessories. I think they make up an outfit. So yeah.
And I'm last. So I really wanted to wear a leather jacket because it has been like my, fashion statement piece for like many years. But considering I'm in Spain and it's really warm, I've kept things grungy, but like way more summery. So yeah, a little dress and this leather piece.
Well, I'm going to say that you all look amazing. And I actually am wearing a jean jacket you can't see. It has distressed sort of holes in my elbow, and I have on my headscarf. And I would normally have all of my accessories, but I'm actually out of town. And I forgot all of my accessories. So Caprice, I'm going to have to hear more about your jewelry line.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I can make some purchases so that I am not without moving forward. So our first question today is it Andrea? Is that correct? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Oh, you're on mute. Oh, there we go. Wait, there we go.
Laptop. Yeah, laptop going crazy. Sorry. It's supposed to be Andrea, but
okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay, I can't roll my R's, so so forgive me if I pronounce it incorrectly. So this first question
make it easy.
Okay. Goes to you and Caprice. In what spaces do you see the biggest opportunity for wearers with disabilities to be featured? Where do we need more advocacy and inclusivity?
Do you want to go first or should I?
I can go first. Definitely social media. That is the biggest platform at the moment. But I think it's really important in fashion magazines, because like that's where people grab inspiration from. And the first step, it's like fashion runways, and then it would be fashion magazines, and then social media. I think there would be like much more portrayal of disabled people.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think just in the fashion industry in general, billboards, magazines, as you said, social media, I feel like it's important for people to see themselves being represented everywhere. So yeah, just fashion industry. Yeah.
So the next question actually is for you, Caprice. And Caprice, you are an absolutely gorgeous model.
Thank you.
When I first saw your pictures, I was like, wow.
Thank you.
The first question that I have for you is, how did you break into this business that is so heavily focused on appearance? Like, what has that experience been like for you?
So how I got into the business, I literally just applied to my agency, Zebedee Management, and God, I feel like my experience with them and in the modeling industry has been, I could say, amazing. I guess there are barriers when I go to jobs and it's not accessible, etc. But overall, my experience has actually been really good. Yeah.
So is it, I find it interesting that you said that you just, you went to your agency and were just like, hey, I want a model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that like very, very common? Like, were they very receptive to you? Because I can imagine like here in the United States, I think there's like one modeling agency that is fairly receptive to people with disabilities, but for the most
Yeah.
part, not so much. So, what was their response to you when you said, hey, I want a model?
Yeah, so my agency, they represent people with disabilities and differences anyway. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So when I first applied to them, they were pretty small. So they accepted me, and they've like grown so much over the years. So they represent people in the UK, America, Australia now, I think. So they've grown like dramatically.
So you said they represent people in America. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
We need to talk, Caprice. I need to have a conversation with you and
Definitely, yeah.
get some information. So when you arrive at a shoot, how do you well, I guess, what is it when you realize that you've been hired to have this particular shoot at this location? What do you do if when you get there there's no elevator or there's no ramp? Like, how do you handle those challenges, or do you let the agency handle them for you?
So when I'm in that situation, I kind of like deal with it head on. I can't really do anything if they don't have like a ramp. So what I do as well, I just blog about my experiences of each job that I've had, just so my agency can see, and also people that are disabled models and disabled people in general, just to see my experiences, and in the hope that people that read it, they like get more clued up, you could say, more educated. But yeah, I go to my agency, I tell them, and I just kind of deal with it on the day, you could say. Just yeah.
I love the way that you advocate
thank you.
for yourself. Now, the next question is for Andrea. Can you speak about your experience in the fashion modeling industry? And you are another person. I'm now following you on Instagram, and it's just nice to be around really beautiful, amazing people. And you are definitely another one who is absolutely gorgeous. So, what has your experience been like in the fashion modeling industry?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for
welcome.
what you said. I've been dealing with my situation with Ewing sarcoma. There was diagnosed in 2007. So that meant that ever since I've been having surgeries, and I tried my luck in the fashion industry, and I went to Madrid here in Spain to have an interview with a scout, I guess. And when she saw me walk in and she saw the crutch, first thing she asked was, "Oh, is this permanent? Or like, have you sprained your ankle?" And then I said, "Oh, no, I'm afraid this is going on for now. I'm recovering from surgery, blah, blah, blah." And like her comment was like, "Oh, what a pity, what a shame." Because I'm supposed to tick some boxes, like tall, skinny, whatever. But it was like a full no. Like she completely lost the interest. When I said no, it's permanent. So I had that one, and then another one wanted me to remove a mole, the beauty mark, and I was like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen." So then what I've done is just fairly small jobs with an art gallery here in Salamanca. But I kind of guess I was disheartened with that experience, and I want to apply. And this was a few years ago. I'm not sure they would be able to get away with that kind of thing
right
now. But now I'm living in the UK. I would love to apply to agencies and start doing things, because pretty or not, I think I have a story to tell, and I think pictures show that. So yeah, so it wasn't fun. I'll tell you that.
Sounds like you and Caprice need to have a conversation too.
Yeah, we do.
Sounds like that needs to be a thing. So you said that you were disheartened from both of those experiences. What is motivating you to continue? Like, why didn't you just quit and say, "Well, no, I'm not going to do that"? Like, what's your motivation to continue to move forward? Why didn't you just say, you know, to heck with it, I'm not going to do it?
At first, it was just pure stubbornness, you know. You know, I'm like a proper Spanish bull sometimes. I'm like, you tell me no, I'm gonna go for it. But ever since the diagnosis, I've been kind of keeping memories, you know, in the screen, it's all my X-rays, and I've been doing some kind of artistry project, artistic project related to all of this. And part of it was what I was wearing, you know, my style, my scars. For me, everything it's mishmashed into one thing. But now it's because people have asked me questions, and they've honestly thanked me and sent me messages saying, oh, thanks to you, I've been able to say that I'm amputee for the first time. Or you've made me want to wear shorts for the first time. And, you know, it's not the makes you feel like a superhero or anything, but for me, making other people feel good about themselves, it's like enough motivation and enough drive. Whether it ends in like a big fashion day or not, for me, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just the fact that I'm helping people. And also, I really enjoy mixing clothes.
And I love that, because I'm, you know, fairly new disabled person. 2018 is when I became a bilateral amputee. And I know that one of the things that really challenged me was getting comfortable in my own skin again, right? Getting comfortable in my body, like you said, with my scars and being an amputee. And one of the greatest freedoms that I've had is finding people like you. I wish I had known you maybe a couple of years ago. I could have used some of your motivation, but finding people who were like me, who were, you know, rocking their disability and doing it with pride. Here in the United States, we are at the end of Disabled Pride Month. And so this whole month of July has been about, you know, people with disabilities saying, you know, I am who I am, you know, love me or leave me, you know, kind of thing. So I love that. So let's talk to Monica and Usha. So can you speak a little bit about the social media ban against disabled bodies and how the algorithms of these platforms are ableist? So the two of you are fashion designers, and I am super excited because like in my introduction, I want to wear cute clothes again. So this is your arena. So can you talk a little bit about this whole social media ban and what's going on with that?
Thank you, Shantrice. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
You are. Thank you so much.
So I'm just going to go in a bit of facts. So I'd apologize in advance if it gets a bit longer. So I'll just start from the scratch. Digital ableism is when this discrimination takes place through apps, websites, or online services. Right now, adaptive fashion, all the brands, is dealing with an unexpected difficulties in reaching their customers on Facebook or Instagram or TikToks or Google, where advertising policies and algorithms are rejecting ads placed by the adaptive wear brands. So it's quite difficult for us, and the ads aren't being allowed to communicate to viewers. The brands have also had advertisements removed from Instagram and Facebook. That's site violation. And personally, we haven't experienced these, but our friends who are in adaptive fashion clothing industries have faced these difficulties. So, for example, they've also had images flagged for the containing inappropriate content, which is actually not inappropriate, but they just show the reality of what people with disabilities face. So, with 2.8 billion users, Facebook's potential for building brand awareness is significant. And according to the Cohen Market Insights, the global market for adaptive clothing market is expected to be worth $400 billion by 2026, compared to $279 billion in 2017. And another good example to use is on social media, which can be done by Camel Case, which is a very important accessibility requirement. So it's improves understanding and readability for everyone. And it's basically the capital letters are taller than the lowercase letters. So we just need to create the ableist attitude online with small, small things. And it's very important to understand that it's not about the business prospects for us. It's about the entire industry where people with disabilities, consumers, have unequal accessibility to products and services they need as compared to the non-disabled people. So at this point in time, all the brands are fighting together to remove this social ban, but it's going to take a long time. But I think it's a matter of accessibility rights, and for many disabled people, social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram facilitate possibilities for their survival. So it is a very difficult situation right now, but we all are fighting for it. So
That's awesome. One of the things that I've been privileged to do here in the States is I sit on an advisory board for Pinterest, and it's actually their inclusivity advisory board. So our job is to advise Pinterest on what we see in the areas of sort of race and gender and ethnicity. And I'm on the board because as a woman with a African-American woman with a disability, one of the things that I noticed right off the bat was the lack of people, disabled bodies on Pinterest, or if they were on Pinterest, they were always labeled or related to the medical field. Like anytime there was someone in a wheelchair or had a crutch, it was labeled as medical equipment, not as beauty, not as fashion. So I definitely have seen the what you're talking about with the algorithms and things getting banned. Usha, did you want to chime in here a little bit?
I think Monica summarized it very clearly with the facts and figures. I think with your point in the Pinterest, disability was not very vocal in the fashion world, and that's why there was always hidden, and it was all about selling the products from that perspective. So I think now the whole atmosphere is changing with the inclusiveness and sustainability. So I think now we will be seeing a change or the wave of change in the fashion industry and even the social media. So they're becoming more and more adaptive. But I think, yes, there was a restriction, but now they are trying to make these changes. It might not be very quick, but a slow and steady movement is occurring.
Excellent, love that. Okay, so the next question is back to Andrea and Caprice. How do you deal with others feeling uncomfortable? That's a very real thing. I know that when, as a bilateral amputee, when I go out sometimes, and now it's summertime here in Georgia, I'm rocking my shorts, I'm rocking my little dresses, and it's amazing to be out and have people do that double take, which I don't mind. But for me, it's the people who do the double take and then they stare and just stare and just stare. So how do you all deal with people being uncomfortable around you?
Should I go first? Yeah. So I could say my leg has kind of changed over time, like the look of it. Mm-hmm. But when I first became disabled, I think I was about, maybe this happened when I was like 12, maybe 11, 12. And my leg used to like bend backwards. I don't know, I can't like describe it. But I remember a boy the same age as me, he was like, ugh. So it just made me feel like just not good about myself, basically. When people stare, I don't know, it just makes you feel really uncomfortable and really self-conscious. But I feel like as I've gotten older, I've learned to deal with it better, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just ignore people that are staring now, because it's like I'm confident in myself now, so I don't really care, really. Yeah.
Now, Andrea, I feel like you take a different approach. I feel like you have a more direct approach to people. So talk a little bit about what it is that you do.
Yeah, I was going to say this is a very big difference between like someone British and like a Spanish one, because the first thing that happened to me was I lost the hair with the chemotherapy, and I never wore a wig. I could not handle them. They were uncomfortable. I hated them. So I was just wearing like little beanies. It's how they're called. But if I would go into somewhere, I would just take it off. So I've literally like never cared about who like were saying what they were saying. When I finished the treatment, I was 49 kilograms, which is very, very, very little. And throughout the years, I've had to wear different leg accessories, like the leg braces, the plastic, how is it called? Like a cast, but like an inside the shoe kind of thing. Crutches, I've literally broken like 4 different pair of crutches, and every single one of them has been a different color. So it's been in the back of my mind more and more and more. But now with the amputation, because it's so recent, it was just in April, and with the pandemic, I haven't been leaving the house much. And thankfully, I have this little scooter, which is hilarious to run. It's like I'm playing Mario Kart in real life. And people look at you and then look at the scooter and then look at the leg and then look at you again. And I've had people like circling back. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Do you want us like an auto, like to sign something for you or something? And not long ago, this old man literally stopped in the street and asked me like, what happened to you? And I was just, excuse me, how do you care? Like, this is none of your business. So yeah, it's just been, you know, different phases of, no, I don't care. Now I get annoyed. Now I don't get annoyed. But my friends always know when I'm like going too far off, and they're like, Andrea, just don't, you know, because sometimes people ask like very innocently, or, you know, they're really interested. But when someone comes and they have like this judgy look, or, you know, the I want to know what, instead of, you know, I want to know what happened to you, instead of like, why are you like this, which for me are 2 completely different things.
Absolutely.
And when it's that kind of morbid curiosity, it's like, no, I'm not going to give it to you. So yeah, you could say I have different approaches.
You know, one of the things that, and I'm kind of like you, that when adults, you know, sort of do the, I'm going to stare, or they try to ask these invasive questions, I shut them down. But I will say that who I do love talking to are children. Yeah, because I think children, they're curious. They're very innocent. I was at the store the other day, and there was this little girl, and I could see her watching me, and I kind of waved at her, and she waved back, and then she came over, and she stood in front of me and kind of looked, and she said, "Your legs are missing." And I said, "They are." And she said, "Where'd they go?" And so, you know, and I said, "Well, do you want to know the truth, or you want me to tell you a good story?" And she said, "Oh no, I'm a big girl. You can tell me the truth." And so, you know, I told her, you know, what happened. I had a heart attack, and I had an infection, and these things happen. And she's like, "Oh, well, I'm glad you're still here." And then she just walked away. And I was like, oh, my whole heart was, you know, was warmed. And I wish that, you know, she could, you know, give a lesson to some of the adults that I've unfortunately had to run into. But yeah, I don't mind when children ask. I don't even mind when adults ask, but like you said, it's depending on how they ask. Are they asking because they're curious? Are they asking because they have a you know, a morbid fantasy? Now, I don't know what it's like over in Europe, but here in the United States, we have people who are what are called devotees. And
yeah, I've noticed that on Instagram, and it's something that has creeped me out.
Yeah, it's very, very creepy when you get people in your Instagram, in your inbox, who are attracted to you because of your disability. And some of them are very subtle, and others of them are, you know, just, you know, completely direct. And, you know, after I get done, you know, cursing them out in my comments, using all of my cuss words, you know, I have to delete and block them. But it's really unnerving to have somebody approach you in
Can
that
I see your
manner.
stumps? It's like,
Right.
no.
No.
Why would you know?
You want me to punch you in the face is the next question I'm asking. So, yeah, gosh. So, Andrea, again, asking you. So there's a quote that sometimes people say that there are certain things that impact you or don't impact you until they impact you. So, the lens through which we tend to view the world is modified when, or widened when we become more aware of things, or when we become part of a new community. So you and I have something in common in that we are both fairly new amputees and fairly new to this particular community. So how has this change been for you? And what did you notice wasn't immediately available for you in terms of what you can and cannot wear? So I guess to put it fairly simply, when you became an amputee or when you became disabled, what were some of the things that you immediately noticed, like, oh, wait, I didn't even know that I needed to, have pants that had a zipper on the side because I didn't have to worry about that before. So what were some of the things that sort of, became apparent to you?
So I think, first of all, I've been really lucky because the amputation has been in April. So I haven't literally haven't worn long pants, long trousers ever since. I've just been living in the cycling joggings, or how they're called. But for me, more than that at the moment, because I was fairly limited before with the type of shoes that I could wear, or with the braces, the type of jeans, or like skinny jeans, or having to wear compression tights and not being comfortable wearing skirts. So even before the amputation, there's been a whole range of things that I wasn't able to wear. So now, if I'm completely honest, I'm more excited about the things that I can wear, because before the amputation, I had a leg shorter than the other one, so I had to wear an insole in the shoes. So that meant that I could only wear a type of trainers. So if I found a type of trainers, I would use them until I break them. But now, oh my, I'm really looking forward to get the leg, so I can just wear any pair of trainers that I want, any type of boots. I'm mentally thinking, how's the skinny jeans situation going to work, because I'm a big skinny jeans kind of girl. But I'll get there when I get there. But the immediate feeling that I have is more excitement than anything else, as weird as that sounds.
No, that I actually understand that. I don't use my prosthesis very often, but I know that when I was, sort of, putting them together and planning them, one of the things that I was excited about was being able to wear, my favorite sneakers again, and because I wasn't able to wear them. So I completely understand that. It's a lot of fun, I will say that to you. And since we're talking about fashion, Monica and Usha, I want to throw this question back over to you. Have you recently noticed a rise in adaptive fashion? And it would be interesting to hear about how you adapt to all disabilities at Reset Adaptive.
Sure. Thank you, Chantrice. At this moment in time, like with the facts and figures, 15% of the population is like disabled. So adaptive clothing was just, in 1990s was all about caregivers buying the clothes for who they're looking after, or they were bought by the disability people who wanted easy wear clothing. And these clothes were very clinical type clothing, nothing, it wasn't very fashionable, and it was very like patient type, very single color type of the whole wardrobe was about. The representation of disabled people in mainstream fashion was hardly seen. The fashion designers never pitched to these groups of the consumers either. So in last couple of years, what we have seen is a sudden interest in the whole demographics. So like high street brands like Tommy Hilfiger, Nike, all have ramped up the collection. So fashion industry is going through that revolution where inclusiveness and sustainability is becoming the golden standard. Various startups who are working towards adaptive fashion are making this as a vertical segment of its own. So all these development shows a rise in adaptive fashion. Adaptive fashion for us, Reset, is based on design thinking to provide a solution for the people with disability. Currently, what we are trying to do is engage with the disability groups to co-design the dressing solutions. So it's just to understand like how they would like the fit, how it enhances their mobility, how is it functional to them. So all these aspects are taken into consideration while making the prototype. So these garments have to be functional, they should have the features, they should have print and colors. So function and looks are the key catalyst for the evolution of adaptive clothing for us.
I want to applaud you for, because neither you or Monica have a disability, but I want to applaud you for including people with disabilities into your planning and actually asking the questions, because so often, people will say, we we are all inclusive, but there's nobody on their board, there's nobody in their company, there's nobody who works with them or for them that has a disability who's informing their decisions. So they're just kind of coming up with what they think people with disabilities would like. So I just want to applaud you both for taking the voices of those people with disabilities into consideration. That is so very important.
That's right. So we had like the focus group from which we took the feedback and to understand like what type of functionalities they need. So these was an important part of our process. So definitely from that we created the garments. It's a continuous process, Chandris, I have to say, because it doesn't fit one person, so
right.
It's an evolving process.
Well, I need you all to contact some of the clothing designers here in the United States and help them because they need some advisement. I would love to see you all really influencing some of these major brands in a positive way. So this question goes to everybody. What does inclusion look like to you, and how can the clothing industry cater to the disabled community? So anybody can answer that question. Again, it's what does inclusion look like for you, and how can the clothing industry cater to the disabled community? Any thoughts on that?
I'll just add a little bit. So I think after working for Reset for such a long time, I just realized inclusivity in itself for us, for Reset, is really to be open-minded, to embrace all kinds of people. Like through Reset, we want to approach this clothing with features, or to include the designs, to colors, to prints, because every small features adds, it's like to help the people with disabilities to add confidence or bringing humanness at every level for them to be more independent. So I think inclusivity is very important for every brand.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like just every brand should have a line for disabled people, like you go online and you go and shop with, I don't know, name somewhere, any shop, any brand. I just feel like they need to have a line for disabled people. I feel like they need to speak to disabled people, talk to us about our needs, what they could put into the clothing line for us. Yeah, I think that's really important for every brand to have a line for us. Yeah.
But,
I think,
sorry.
Go ahead, Andrea.
No, I was just going to say that I completely agree with Tris. But the fashion industry needs to have a look at like all the types of disability. There's lots of disabled like disability types in the end, and if we, I mean from my own perspective, I've seen like the disabled like token person in campaigns, and the one that fits all the marks, and it's like no, like there's so many type of disabled people that you cannot only have one, and the same way you do research for other types of like the color of the year or whatever, you really need to take into consideration that there's not just one disabled person, you know, a standard type. They don't fit in a box. And you know, that token has been there for quite some time. And when you're not that token, then you're not considered, and they're you know how you're supposed to dress.
Right. I've definitely seen that, and yeah, that's a little bit little disturbing to me. I'm trying to maintain my composure. Anybody else want to talk about what inclusion looks like? Okay, so then we're going to Andrea and Caprice. This question is for the both of you. So how do you currently shop for clothing? Is it online? Is it in a brick and mortar store? You know, why? Do you feel represented in these shops, you know, by the models, the styles, the assortment? I know that for me, I can't remember the last time that I went shopping in a brick and mortar store. If I can't get it online, then I don't need it. Part of that reason is that I just don't like shopping. But the other reason, especially recently, you know, becoming disabled, is that I can try on clothes in the comfort of my own home and not have to feel like people are staring or that I'm being rushed. So, you know, how do you all, how do you two shop for your clothes? What's your preference?
Okay. So right now it's online for me. It's just easier. And I find here in the UK, many stores don't have like a disabled changing room. So it's really hard for me.
Right.
So online right now is just easier. And like you said, changing in the comfort of my own home, not being rushed, which happens often in places like that. So definitely online. And if I need to go out, I will, but not really.
Andrea, what about you?
Well, pretty much the same. Online is the easiest thing because you can try things whenever you want to, and you're not, you know, depending on does this shop not only have a disabled changing room, but does the changing room even have seats? Because you know,
right.
For me, before I would just go with the crutch, and you know, I could not change pants standing up, or like jeans or trousers. So some shops don't even have like a seat, and it's like, what are you doing? But yeah, it's mainly online. But you know, you enter in the whole category of, is this going to fit you? Because you know, I go into the toy category, and now tall and with half a leg less. It's like, am I still tall for people? Where do I fit? You know, it's like where can I find clothes? So yeah, I've just been, you know, sticking to the basics and keeping it easy. But I'm definitely going to try and find things I like and how I like them. But yeah, for now it's just, you know, sticking online.
Yeah. It's the same way over here. And it's interesting because I don't think that I literally have not been in a store since my paralysis and my amputations. And so you just saying even now that some of the changing rooms, the dressing rooms don't have seats. And I'm thinking, I didn't even think about that because I haven't been in a store since my amputations. But that's something that simple is so important for people who can't change or try on clothes, you know, standing up. I'm sorry, my mind is blown right now because I hadn't thought about that. So are there any, this is for everybody, are there any specific designs that absolutely exclude the disabled community entirely? Are there, I don't know if we can actually say designers, but in my mind, I know what I'm thinking about is like formal wear. So in my capacity with my husband and some of the things that I do, sometimes I have to, even this recently, I have to, you know, wear formal attire. Formal attire is really difficult to find when you're in a wheelchair, or if you're in a wheelchair. Like, you can't get a big, ball gown. The dresses are. I'm also short, so even before my amputations, I was barely, here in the United States, 5 feet. Like, I'm tiny. But finding dresses that are super, super long, and then I'm in a wheelchair, so now they're really long, and now I have to worry about, whether or not I'm going to roll over the bottom of the dress. But are there any specific designers or designs that absolutely exclude people with disabilities completely, that we might, need to address or start a writing campaign to? Or not. Or maybe not. I don't. Just a question.
I mean, the good thing now, it's at least in the UK, because I still haven't seen it here in Spain. It's some brands, even though many of them are like fast fashion, and that's not good either. But sometimes you don't have the option of getting something that is not fast fashion. They divide things by like petite, curvy, tall, which is something that, as I say, I haven't seen in Spain, and for me it was like a great expansion. So it's not critique, but the opposite. The fact that in the UK you can find many more options, because usually in the shops, if you don't find between like size 8 to 14, then you're out. So that's a good change, and that means that they reach to more people. They cater to more needs. So yeah, trying to see the positive side.
Well, I think that's actually helpful, to see the possibilities of a thing. Anybody else? Okay, I will take that as a no. Let's see, any other questions that I want to address before we go into the chat? So Caprice and Andrea, and I can answer this as well. Are there any clothing brands that exist right now that you're aware of that completely cater to your needs? Like, completely, like you can go there, you can order them online, you get the clothes, you put them on, you're like, boom, I'm good, this fits. Okay,
No.
Caprice is over there shaking her head.
She's like, I'm thinking, I'm like, I don't think so, no.
That's a $1 million question, Chandra.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Trisha.
Yeah.
Right. And Andrea, I know now, Andrea, how tall are you?
5'11".
You're tall. So,
Yes.
so are there any brands, any clothing designers that that you can go there, find what you need, put it on, you feel good and go, or is there still some areas of improvement in that area?
There is some improvement, but when I moved to the UK, I found the top shop Tallline. So their skinny jeans are long. They are long, so I'm quite happy with them. But not much more than that. It's mainly a trial and error, and because also I'm not only tall, I'm very long. I have long limbs, and that means that if I want to wear like a sweatshirt, it's going to have to be from the menswear section. So I'm in that limbo in where you're tall and skinny, but you're long, and being long doesn't fit to you. Like, shirts are always like really short. So yeah, I've bought jeans from that shop a few times now, and I think I'm going to keep on doing that. But the rest, it's trial and error.
So even before your amputation and your disability, you were having challenges finding clothes. Being a woman who was his tall. I am the shortest person in my family. I'm the oldest of a multitude of grandchildren, and I'm also the shortest. All of my cousins are 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet plus, including the women. And so, I don't have difficulty finding clothes because I'm little, but then, having to, sort of hear their complaints about, like you said, not being able to find, clothing that fits in proportion to their height, or they also have very large feet because they're, 6 feet tall. And at least, for women, once you get past, a certain size of shoe, the cuteness level, tends to
it goes down.
It goes down. So, okay. So it says that fashion is the window to the soul. It gives a person a voice without speaking and a purpose. It should empower and build confidence. So this is for any of the panelists. How can we give voice to people with disabilities within the fashion industry? How do we do that?
Giving options.
Sorry?
Just by giving options.
Giving options. Mm-hmm.
Disabled people and disabled women want to feel pretty, confident, and they want to, go out feeling their best and not having to wear leggings 24/7 because they can't find anything else that they can wear. So for me, it's options.
Now, Caprice, I was going to say, now, Caprice, I want to hear your response, because not only does this sort of apply to you, but you're also 20. You're also 20.
Yeah.
And so because you're young, there are certain, fashions and styles that are out, and, that, you might want to wear. So how do we help your generation? I'm not in your generation. Yeah. I'm old enough to be your mother, but how do we help disabled people in their 20s, with all the fashion and the style?
Well, I completely agree with options, and I think it's just letting us use our voices. I think that's one major thing. Like, I don't know how to describe it. You can't go ahead without disabled people. Give us a voice, and we can tell you our problems, what we would like, options, giving us a voice, and just having a platform as well. I think that's so important to reach so much more people. So yeah, those two things definitely.
Also, just to add, an awareness, which is very necessary to reframe the uncaptured issues we have that are ongoing, and how we can make an impact, like each and every person, especially through education. We will be empowered to bring out even the designers. I think an education in this and curriculum needs to be added to make a human-centric product, I think, which is very, very important.
Yeah, I agree with what all of you have said. I'm really excited about, especially Monica and Usha, what you guys are doing with just really creating fashion for disabled people that looks good. I'm not a very vain person, but I do like to look cute. I do like to, feel comfortable in my clothes. So just the work that you guys are doing is so admirable and much appreciated. So I do have a question for Andrea and Caprice. I'll answer this question as well. It has nothing to do with fashion. It has to do with how you refer to yourselves. So there's this sort of big debate that's going on between how people, I'm going to say this, but how people with disabilities refer to themselves. So do you refer to yourself as a person with a disability? Are you a disabled person? Do you prefer differently abled? What's your preference? Now, for me, I always prefer that people ask me and not assume that how they refer to me is okay. But for the two of you, what's your preference, or what do you prefer that people do?
So for me, I'm just disabled. I'm a disabled person. I don't know, I'm just disabled. I've never actually had this type of discussion with another disabled person before. So I've always just said I'm just disabled.
Okay.
And I mean, I guess the term differently able, did you say?
Yeah, differently able.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I won't be offended with anything, as long as it's not offensive. But for me, it's just, I'm a disabled person.
Got you. Andrea, what about you?
Same, very much ask first, but if I had to define that, say person with a disability for now, because I don't have, prosthetic leg, then my opinion might change. But I've grown up with very sassy friends. They've always called me, fun names, and maybe people would be offended by things, but they've called me things like half leg, and it's like, fine, whatever, you teeny tiny hobbit, we call ourselves things, so it's fine. But in all seriousness, I think it'd be like a person with a disability, just because it's something so local, I guess. So localized, and yeah, I haven't even given it much thought during all of these years, really. It's just like, no, I can do it. So
right.
I don't know. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say that I've had conversations with people who are who have disabilities, and for me, my rationale is, here in the United States, I'm a Black woman. I'm not a woman with Blackness. So when I think about, so when I refer to myself as a disabled woman, it just makes sense to me. It doesn't bother me. I do have a friend of mine who is disabled, and she chastised me one day. She said, "You are not disabled. You are differently abled." And I remember looking, I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm disabled. I'm pretty sure that's who I am. But to her, that term is offensive. Fortunately, the term, disabled or disability, in a lot of ways, have been treated as something that you need to be ashamed of. That's something that's offensive. And so, what I've found is that the term differently abled is often used by people who are non-disabled as a way to, make them feel better about talking to me. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm disabled. I said, I'm comfortable with my disability. It's you who's not comfortable with it. And I've heard people say that using differently abled is actually an ableist way of referring to someone with a disability. And so when Caprice, when you said, I guess I'd be okay if it's not offensive. Well, to some people that is offensive. I'm not differently abled. You don't need to, try to make up some, cutesy name to make it sound okay. It's perfectly fine for me to be disabled. So
Yeah,
it really is preference. So now, Nessa, I hope you're there somewhere because there's lots of questions in the chat, and I wanted to know if it was okay for me to kind of, look at some of these and.
Yes, if you'd like, I can send them directly to you.
Well, I'm looking at them in the chat, so.
Perfect.
Let's see. So here's one. It's actually a statement that says, I think representation of different abilities should be in children's books. We need to get the next generation thinking about this in the right way. And I completely agree. I don't know what it's like over in Europe, but I know that over here in the United States, there actually are quite a lot of children's books that address disabilities and all different types of disabilities, physical disabilities, intellectual disabilities. And I don't know, maybe it's if it's because I'm in that space now, but I'm seeing more and more books coming out directly for children, so that when they go to school and they see somebody who looks different or who thinks differently, that it's not a big deal. It's just that's John or that's Jessica and that's my friend, as opposed to, look at her leg or look at her hand or whatever. So that's actually a really good point. Someone has asked the question, how has your style evolved with the amputation and throughout the pandemic? I think you talked about this a little bit, but is there anything else you want to share with us about your style now?
It's just comfortable at the moment because I am doing PT in the mornings.
Yes.
So, you know, I wake up at the moment tired enough and in pain enough to just think. So I just go and get some shorts. Again, in Spain is really, really hot. So you don't want to be wearing much clothes. So yeah, it's just shorts or like, you know, like jeans that I've put. But yeah, that's that. The only thing that I'm doing as a fashion statement is socks. I've always loved socks, but now I'm creating this little collection of, you know, funny messages, different like what's the term, like stamps. So and yeah, the kind of the socks that you can wear, you know, with like Converse and be like high and tight. And I'm wearing just one, so I'm gonna make sure that you look at it. So because I have an amputee, you're going to look at the other sock. So yeah, that's I think that's the only piece of garment that I'm actually thinking about at the moment.
I love that, socks.
I love them.
I love that. Okay, that's very cool. This question actually would be for Monica and Usha. How can non-disabled folks contribute to change the fashion industry for good? Or better yet, that can be a question for anybody. What do you think? But I'll start with Monica and Usha.
I think it is about knowledge and the awareness in the society. I think that is the key message to be given to everyone. So like our dad suffers from Parkinson's, and we were not really knowing about this disease till we saw it firsthand. So I think this is about, and then it comes to the same thing. Are we aware of it? If not, what is going around in ourselves? Are we adaptive to the people around us? What is this conscious or unconscious bias we are putting in our decision making? So all those little factors come into play when you are looking into the disabilities, or making decisions in terms of the in terms of fashion companies, or in terms of anything we choose, from every little thing. So it is about being like open to every human or everything. And if we are buying a piece of cloth, how can we make changes to it, and how can we make it more adaptable or more functional towards it? So that's what I would say, that we can we just need to make a note and ask people how we can be more functional. That's what I would say.
I think by
no, go ahead, Monica.
By also making it very personal, and like the curiosity about, like Usha said, ask questions. I think that's what we did after our father was diagnosed with Parkinson's. We did a lot of research, and I think still a lot of research needs to be done in other areas of mobility issues. So I think the curiosity to be able to see what can be, how can we help to help the society and the people with disabilities. So yeah.
I would also add just being a voice. If you are in spaces where you have some influence, make a comment, say, hey, these are really, awesome jeans, but, how will somebody, who has limited mobility in their hands, put these on. So I think it is being, using your voice in the arena of advocacy. Give a voice, because your voice is probably going to be heard, unfortunately, faster as a non-disabled person than somebody who is disabled saying, waving their hands and saying, hey, here's what I need. But, using your voice as a way to be an advocate.
I totally second that. Advocacy is very, very important in this day and age. I mean, social media has taken over this campaign, about the disability and adaptive fashion. So I think this is that's why we are getting more and more awareness of it, and that's why we are here talking about the disabled fashion.
Okay, so there is a question here from, I don't want to pronounce your name incorrectly, Kavitha. I don't want to pronounce it incorrectly. And they say, as a person who doesn't identify as disabled person and running a slow fashion brand, which makes eco-friendly, ability and size inclusive leggings and underpants for women and children, what advice would you give me to better my service? I right now offer changes based on what my customer wants.
That's a great start.
I think so too.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
Offering changes based on like personal necessities, it's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
so to explain that, everything I do is bespoke. So you can make it to measure, you can adjust it and stuff. And it's the most unscalable and commercialized product you can get. But I feel like if I can make that person wear that outfit longer, then it's more sustainable that way. So with sustainability in mind is what I started offering it. But I realized a lot of people, parents with disabled children, started approaching and said, oh, if you can make it bespoke, can you adapt this, that, and the other? And then I realized there was a need in the market. So now I openly say, if you've got changes, then do contact me. I'll be more than happy to adapt it to what you need, because I don't understand the issues around disability, because I've never had a disability of any kind. I might be heading that way with my disease, but I don't have it at the moment. So rather than me saying I'll do this, that, and the other, I'd rather go by what the customer wants, or what their child wants, what their adult wants. So I just wanted to know if there's any other things I could do better to offer a better service, basically.
That's pretty amazing service right there.
I just want to say thank you, really.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Seriously, alterations are very important, especially for people with disabilities, as long as you can do it, because that's also very difficult as a designer, because the pattern cutting and everything. So
It's a very time-consuming process, and hats off to you, Kavitha, for doing it.
Yeah, because I pattern cut myself, so I make the changes before I make. So as I said, it's not a very scalable option, and it's really tricky when I'm up against the clock. But at the end of the day, if it makes somebody happy, then
absolutely, yeah. So I would say is the feedback from the customers is very important. So I think if you have got the feedback, then you can customize your product, and then you can categorize them and sell them. Like, this is the most popular product you have been modifying, and then it is already available. You don't have to then go through the second or third steps. So I would say to make it more visible, after you have had your feedback, had your analysis done on which is what modifications are you doing, and then if you make them available, then it should be a constant, like it should be readily available. Then you don't have to go through the operation again.
Yeah,
and it's a continuous process, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, I can look at standardization of certain processes and certain offerings. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So Alexandra had a question. She actually had two. The first one is, how can fashion companies include everyone? What is the best way to do the research for the companies? How do you listen to everyone and not exclude anyone while doing market research? Any thoughts on that? I would say that there's no way to include everyone. But I don't, I don't think that's possible. But how do you listen to to all of the voices while you're doing market research? How do you make sure you're not leaving anybody out when you're doing your market research?
I think definitely we'll have to categorize your population of the of the consumers you're looking into. Otherwise, you will land nowhere. So certain segmentation, certain categorization is important while you're doing the research, so you understand what those customers need, and then you can make the product which is helping them, rather than you making a mass scale product which, like, trying to tick all boxes, and then it becomes like obsolete and doesn't work. So that's what I would say. Categorization is quite necessary while doing the research, because it's huge, massive ocean, like base companies out there, functionalities which people need. So that's my take on it.
I think what's your customer is very important. I think you can start from that. Your customer needs, insights, and based on that you can start your research and then narrow it down, like Usha said. So yeah.
Well, as a piggyback to that question, she also asked, how do we educate the designers? Do you think that inclusivity in fashion is something that should be learned at fashion schools, e.g. designing for disabilities?
I totally agree with that, because I'm from London College of Fashion, and my graduate collection was inspired by the Parkinson's, people with Parkinson's. So it was all self-taught, because I think right now it doesn't include any like designing for disabilities. So it's very, very important that every fashion school should include this. So to be able to make human-centric designs. So definitely, or be curious, like you need to be very curious yourself to be able to educate. So yeah.
And I would also say design thinking is a philosophy on its own. So you have to, go through the whole process of it. Whether I made this prototype, does it work? Does it not? And failure becomes a part of this whole process. So you have to keep on trying and working out which is the best possible way to help this person.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's some comment. Oh, go ahead.
So I was going to say that it's not just only the designers, the entire fashion industry, marketing industry, the entire, I mean, if we want to think big, the entire world. But what I mean is, it's not just the fashion as a niche, it's everything related to fashion. I work in marketing, and sometimes I see things and I think like that's not adapted for blind people or deaf people. I think the teaching the designers needs to come even after teaching in like marketing school or business school. Like the disability and the disabled world needs to be included much more in the rest of the areas, because if not, it gets to a point when it's like the last stage and you just need to sign up for something, and it's like, does it have like disabled person, and then you go into the disabled token person. So I think it's much more a process of learning from behind the scenes, but like much more earlier, if that makes sense. I'm not sure it wasn't making much sense, but yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
I
completely agree.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you make a very good point about it not just being the designers, but like you said, the marketing, the advertising, the people, the design people all need to be in the same vein of thinking about how this works for
websites,
absolutely.
apps. Yep. All of those things, they are really important and related to fashion.
Yep. Now, Andrea, you have a message in the chat.
Okay.
And it says, sorry, I've got to go. Wonderful conversation, though, and lovely panel. A big shout out to my amazing friend, Andrea. The European Youth Cancer Community is proud of you. Many thanks for organizing this event. And then somebody else said that they would happily wear your socks if you made your own brand. So maybe that's something that that you might want to consider. Absolutely love eccentric socks, and you could provide single pairs for amputees. So something.
I would love that.
And then somebody else said, I second that. So I think you might have a new business venture that you're going to have to look into, it looks like. Kirsty Banks said, my granddad had Parkinson's, and I can really empathize with the difficulties this presents in terms of mobility, particularly when trying to get him dressed each morning. I really appreciate your accessible approach to design, and I hope that more brands will normalize accessible design rather than it feeling tokenistic or capitalizing on the need for individuals to have adaptive dress. And you had a couple of people who agreed with that. And then, Katya, this is my website, is designed with accessibility in mind. There's an organization in the US which offers advice on this. Yes, there is. And also in the chat, there are a number of fashion and disability activists that you can follow. I follow pretty much all of them. I will say that Curb Free Corey Lee is my favorite, simply because he is the first and the only person, I believe, with a disability in a wheelchair who has been to all 7 continents in his wheelchair. And so he blogs about his about travel. So Nessa, what else do we need to do or talk about? Is there anything else we need to address? This has been a lot of fun, by the way. I just want to say that this has been the most fun that I've had in a couple of days. So I appreciate this opportunity.
I'm so pleased. I think we can wrap up if no one else has any burning questions.
Well, I want to say again, thank you so much, Nessa, for reaching out to me. I think you found me on IG. I don't know how you found me. I'm just glad that you found me. That you found me, because this has been a wonderful experience, and I really enjoyed meeting all of you. Caprice, I was very serious about the earrings, by the way.
No, definitely, I'll talk to you, definitely.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that offline. And Andrea, I am going to continue to follow you on IG. I'm going to actually message you because I saw your most recent story. I know a little bit about what that feels like. So I'll message you, and Monica and Usha, continue your good work. I am looking forward to the moment when I can make a purchase for whatever it is that you are designing. And again, Nessa, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Nessa. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Nessa.
Thanks.
And if my business partner can just come on, Naomi, I just want to just say goodbye to everyone together.
Hey, hello everyone. Sorry, I didn't know I was gonna be called to show up. But yeah, I'm the other half of Wearers Festival, and it's been truly wonderful to listen to your experiences today. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's been great.
Leticia was popping there as well.
Yeah, there we go.
She's part of the team. Adan is part of the team. We're missing, I think we have Sophie here as well somewhere, and Trishna, who couldn't attend today, but we all thank you for joining us today. This was really wonderful.
Yeah, and very important, please follow us on our social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, and that. We will have some events during this late summer, and stay tuned.
Yes.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.